Alright, so the Roccat Syn Max Air is Roccat's flagship model and is a mid-range wireless headset. First and foremost, it's been designed to work with PC, and although it's compatible with the PS4, PS5, the Switch and Android devices, a few of its best features, including the surround sound, are tied to the software, which is PC only. This doesn't make it unsuitable for use with your non-PC devices, it just means that if you're the type of person who likes to fiddle with settings and you don't have a PC, the Syn Max Air will leave you wanting. Features aren't necessarily everything though, and even without the software, this headset delivers a comfortable and great sounding experience regardless of the platform. Okay, so the Syn Max Air weighs 354 grams or 340 grams without the microphone, which puts them on the lighter end of the scale. They're not the lightest headset out there, but they're still pretty light overall. It has both a 2.4 GHz connection via the base station, as well as a Bluetooth 5.1 connection. These can be used simultaneously, meaning that you can listen to game audio and something else such as music via Bluetooth at the same time. The wireless range for both connections is fairly typical at 10 meters or 30 feet. It has big fat 50mm neodymium drivers, and these are the same drivers you'll find in the Turtle Beach headsets. Battery life is my biggest complaint. It has a maximum play time of 16 hours. This is with the lights turned off and they'll last 13 with them on. It goes without saying that using the Bluetooth simultaneously drains the battery even faster. Thankfully, it has a fast charge feature that will give you 2 hours of playtime from a 15-minute charge off the dock. You don't have to use the dock to charge them either, you can charge them using a standard USB-C cable. You can charge them and use them at the same time as well. Overall, the design is minimal and understated. Maybe less so with the lights turned on, but even then, they're less garish than many other brands. I'm not normally into lights, but I think the implementation here is tastefully done. They apparently support up to 16.8 million colors, and both the pattern and animation can be customized using the software. And yeah, you can turn them off too. The ear cups are made out of plastic and have a simple design with a matte finish. It does attract fingerprints, but you probably won't notice unless you look closely. They rotate 180 degrees and along with the headband are easily adjustable. This isn't the most comfortable headset I've tried, but I'd say that they're definitely up there, just behind the EPOS H3PRO Hyrbid and the SteelSeries Nova 7. I wear glasses and I can easily wear these all day without getting that lovely frame imprint behind your ears that some other headsets give you. I haven't had any issues with feeling hot after prolonged use either. The ear cushions include something called cooling gel and yeah, it seems to do the trick. The number of controls on the headset is limited. You've got an on-off button, a Bluetooth on-off button, which is also used to play and pause music, answer and end calls, and skip music tracks. You've got a volume dial and a microphone monitoring dial, and this dial can be customized in the software to change things like the bass and treble boost, chat mix, superhuman hearing volume, and noise gate level. I think these are some of the nicest dials I've seen on a headset. They're big, easy to locate, and have a pronounced clickiness, so it's easy to make fine adjustments. The microphone can be removed, which makes the headset a tiny bit lighter, and it allows them to look a bit more like a pair of headphones. So if you want to use them out and about, it's not so obvious that you're a nerd. The little plug that covers the hole looks kind of cheap and nasty though, and detracts from the otherwise sleek appearance. Another downside is that it doesn't have an auxiliary input, which means they're 100% wireless, and this explains why they can't be used with Xbox. The headband and ear cups are made out of a combination of plastic and aluminium. Overall, it doesn't look or feel cheap, but it also doesn't feel as sturdy as something like the H3PRO. The base station is both a charging dock and a 2.4 GHz transmitter. It not only provides a convenient place to put the headset when you're not using it, but it also removes cable clutter. It has both a PC input and a power input. The PC input provides charge as well as the connection to your PC or console, but it's nice to have the option to charge them using a dedicated power source. Now the base has lights too, and along with displaying your choice of colors, they're used to communicate various things, like when it's charging, when it's connected via Bluetooth, and even when your mic is muted. This is especially handy in setups where the base is on the other side of the room and you wouldn't be able to read a tiny little display panel. To charge the headset, there are magnets to help line it up with the base station. In practice, this is a bit fiddly to get to work. Sometimes it goes in easily, but most of the time I have to manually line up the pins to make sure it's charging. Base station design clearly isn't an easy thing to get right, and anyone who has a 3rd gen Astro A50 will know this pain well. Still, I prefer having a base than the alternative, and hopefully Roccat can improve on this with future headsets. Sound quality is where the Syn Max Air really delivers. I mentioned earlier that it uses the same drivers as the Turtle Beach Stealth 700 Gen 2 Max. What's ironic though is that I think this is a better sounding headset. It's fairly neutral sounding in the default setup, although there is a slight boost in the bass and treble, and I think that most people will like how they sound out of the box. Where I think they excel is delivering a wide soundstage, and the imaging is also pretty damn solid. By this I mean it's easy to identify and locate individual sounds. I actually had to double check that I didn't have 3D audio on my PS5 turned on because of how well they perform in this area. They sound great for everything I tried too, racing games, shooters, retro games, you name it, it performs well across the board. Performance when listening to music is equally great for a headset. If you don't like the default EQ, you can always dive into the EQ settings in the software and crank up the low end if that's your preference. Unfortunately, the EQ settings only work when connected to a PC via the software, they don't save to the headset. For Bluetooth devices, you can obviously adjust your levels through the device's settings, but for consoles, you're stuck with the default EQ. Like I said, I think they sound great out of the box, but if you plan on using them exclusively with a console, this is definitely a limitation. The light settings, on the other hand, will save to the headset, so you can enjoy them even if you're using the headset via Bluetooth alone. The software also gives you access to two types of surround sound. There's the Waves 3D, which is your simulated 7.1, and then there's Spatializer. I didn't think much of the Spatializer, but the Waves 3D is pretty good, and it gives you the option of game, music, and movie presets within this mode. I thought it sounded especially good for listening to music. Both of these surround options work with your current EQ settings too, so you still have control over your levels. There's something called superhuman hearing as well. Like the surround sound, this layers on top of your EQ settings and amplifies specific frequencies so that you can hear other players in competitive games more easily. This isn't just a simple on-off either, you can choose how strong it is and even map it to the wheel on the headset to adjust on the fly, again for PC only. So I did have a few issues with the Swarm software. When I first tried to connect the headset to my PC, it wouldn't recognize the headset at all. Turns out it's just a matter of connecting it properly, so if you're having the same problem, make sure that you have the base connected to the PC using the PC port, not the power port. You also need to have the headset turned on and sitting in the base station. Once I did this, it allowed me to download the drivers. Then I had to plug the headset and base station in separately at the same time to update the firmware for each. Once you've updated the Swarm software with the correct drivers and updated the firmware, you can finally access the headset settings. From here, you can customize just about everything, such as the lights, the EQ, the game and chat mix, superhuman hearing, and loads of other stuff. Setup issues aside, the Swarm software lets you do a lot, and if you like tweaking these sorts of settings, then this is a pretty comprehensive suite of options.
Now, from a purely technical standpoint, the microphone is nothing out of the ordinary. And by the way, this is what it sounds like. The frequency range is pretty wide for a headset, but what it does that most other headsets don't is allow you to adjust the EQ of the mic in the settings. By default, this is what it sounds like, but with a bit of tweaking, you can make it sound like this. Again, these settings are tied to the software, so for you PlayStation and Switch owners hoping to sound like Barry White, I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news. Also, when connected through the software, you have access to noise cancelling for the microphone. This helps cut out background noise, and you can adjust how heavy-handed this is too. It's nowhere near as powerful as something like the Nova 7, but it's still pretty good at cutting out something like a fan or an air conditioner.
Now at $399 Australian or $249 US, it puts them in the same price category as the SteelSeries Arctis Nova 7, EPOS H3PRO Hyrbid, and the JBL Quantum 810. I think the retail price is a little high, but I have seen them on sale for around $300 Australian or under $200 US, which I think is a good deal. I think in terms of sound quality, it's definitely on par with the H3PRO Hyrbid and Nova 7, although the Syn Max Air is a tiny bit more bass forward than those two. When talking about features, the Syn Max Air doesn't have as many. It doesn't have things like active noise cancelling, and it has the lowest battery life. I personally don't think that features like ANC are a game changer, and while a bigger battery is nice, 13 hours is more than enough if you don't plan on taking them with you on the go. I think these blow the Turtle Beach Stealth 700 Gen 2 Max out of the water. The Turtle Beach has a baller app that lets you customize the EQ settings on the fly, but otherwise the Roccat is better sounding, better looking, and more comfortable. This is a great headset for PC owners. It's one of the best sounding compared to similar headsets, and although it doesn't pack in quite as many features as some of its rivals, it excels in the things that it does. Compatibility with consoles isn't bad either, unless you have an Xbox of course. The biggest downside here is that you lose some of its best features when not using it with a PC. Not being able to adjust the EQ on console is a bummer, and missing out on the mic EQ settings is especially disappointing. Thankfully, you don't need to adjust the EQ, it still sounds great on the default setup. Overall, this is a well-built and comfy headset that can go toe-to-toe with the best in the category.